Hi, welcome back to Rate That Album, a back and forth album review between myself, Joe Fremming, and my good friend Paul Muad'Dib. How you doing, Paul?
Fuck you.
Well,
fuck
Paul,
you.
You're not alone because we have a guest today. The yin to my yang, the John to my Yoko. We got Joe Brown with us for this week's review.
I'm excited.
I picked an album so bad, I had to drag both of my best friends into the muck with me.
Yeah, I'm going to second Paul on that one. Fuck you.
Thank you. Oh, and Mr. Brown, he tried to blame me for this monstrosity. He's like, hey, you picked the wrong one on my wheel. You're the one that had it on your list, Mr. Joe.
Yeah, but I didn't pick it.
Yeah, he told me about his whole wheel plan. I tried pushing him before to try to make you guys review Technical Ecstasy by Black Sabbath, which I think at least would have been much more tolerable than this. But no, he has to go full. He has to go for the jugular. So Forbidden is what we get.
Yeah, well, Technical Ecstasy isn't a terrible Black Sabbath album. It's just a weird one. I had to go with a terrible Black Sabbath album. So before we begin, what do either of you know about Forbidden by Black Sabbath? Their 1995 would have been the last official Black Sabbath album until the reunion with Ozzy and the album 13 years and years later.
I'll start. I knew nothing about this album. I didn't even know it existed. It was completely off my radar. I don't know about you, Joe.
Yeah, I had heard it was terrible. I'd never listened to it. The only thing I knew it for was the album cover that looks like a villain straight out of Castlevania. But other than that, I knew nothing of this.
Can we say that album cover also looks like it was done in Microsoft Paint?
Yeah,
I've seen better Microsoft Paint.
It's very 8-bit.
Yeah, it's very bad. So I'm going to get us a little into this going because back in 1995, Black Sabbath was far from what they were in the 70s and hell, even the 80s with Ronnie James Dio, an era that I personally happen to really enjoy. In 1995, there's only one original member of Black Sabbath, the band that gave us, War Pigs, Snowblind, Paranoid, you name it. They were awesome in the 70s and 80s. Now they are basically Tony Iommi and his gaggle of chuckleheads. Tony Iommi is the original guitarist of Black Sabbath, and joining him in the 90s is on vocals Tony Martin. Never heard of him. Cozy Powell on drums. Never heard of him. Neil Murray on bass. Never heard of him. And Jeff Nichols on keyboards. Never heard of him. And then for this album, an additional musician by Ice-T. Painfully aware of him. So this album comes about with. Let me get to the producer. The producer is the guitarist from Body Count, Ice-T's hardcore band, a guy named Ernie C. And at this time, Black Sabbath is on the label IRS, and if you know anything about music and bands and labels, IRS one of those great starts, but by 95, you do not want to be on that label. Black Sabbath is on this label. They somehow bypassed the great era of metal of the 1980s, which always confuses me, considering Ozzy's the reigning champ of the decade. So let me just start by saying, going into Forbidden, it's a contractual obligation album. And I don't know if you guys noticed it, but this is an album that was recorded only in 10 days. And I was downright shocked because it felt like it was recorded in 5.
5 hours? Or because I believe that.
Yeah. This album is mixed so bad, it felt like a demo album to me.
I thought of this as, like you said, I read that it was basically trying to finish out a contract, so essentially then the original Black Sabbath lineup could finally reunite. I think they did it for like Live Aid and maybe a couple other times in the 80s, but full-fledged reunion would be the way to go. Yeah, this definitely felt like let's just get this over with. Like, it's the same reaction you'd have to like a racist uncle coming to Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I have to piggyback on that. Like, there's no question that the production value, I mean, when you look at it, it's 1995, and you look at what they did in the 70s and the production value of that compared to what it was 20 years later, and this is worse, says something.
Yeah, and it is a contract album, and it was to get them out of IRS so they could reunite with Ozzy Osbourne and make buckets of money. The person who was unaware of that until it was way too late was their singer, Tony Martin, who said that the song sounded a lot better in rehearsal. And once it started to get going, he realized they were already planning a reunion with Ozzy, which as a singer, I'd imagine let's just say that's just a shitty thing to do to somebody.
Yeah, agreed. They should have at least let him know, but at the same time, there's been some shitty stories about Tony Iommi over the years, not being the nicest person in the world when it comes to shit like that. So am I surprised? No.
Yeah, and Tony Iommi's also like one of history's greatest revisionists when it comes to Black Sabbath. Here's a perfect example of this is he's still touting a remix of this album is going to be coming out, and he wants to do like reissues of the Tony Martin era. I have no idea why anybody would want that. They have like maybe one good song with Tony Martin, and Brown threw that what was that, Headless Cross?
The song Headless Cross, yes.
Yeah, it's not bad.
And you told me when I said it was like the one good song, he's like, well, good's kind of an overstatement. It's listenable.
Yeah, it's serviceable. So he's like, and he's in interviews, he's like, yeah, I wasn't too happy with the mix. This album was just a big, we got to get the fuck out of this record deal and move on to like our, playing Ozfest and making money instead of just being Tony Iommi and a bunch of guys making albums under the Black Sabbath title. He's also has gone on record saying Paranoid was originally like a filler song. Why would you name your second album after a filler song? See, shit like that with Tony Iommi, I take with a grain of salt. He's just historically tells these yarns that make absolutely no sense.
I had heard that same story, that Paranoid was a filler song, and I thought the same thing. I'm like, you named your album after a filler song?
Well, just name it Fairies Wear Boots then. I mean, that was a filler song on that album.
Right.
Well, if I remember correctly, I thought they were going to name the second album War Pigs, and then that didn't go through, so I don't know if they had the filler song like that, but
I'm sorry, if you're going to call like one of your most rockin' songs a filler, it just seems like he's trying to make this mystique about the song where they're probably all like, yeah, this is a kick-ass song when they're making it. And so getting back to Forbidden, this album also raised concerns amongst the fan of this era. I struggle to find plural.
Well, when you read in the Wikipedia that like modern reviewers wouldn't even touch this album, it's not like highly thought of by anyone.
Yeah, and it raised concerns because it's being produced by these hip hop people, and they thought it was going to be Rap Sabbath, which honestly it would probably sound a lot better than what we got here.
Well, we get some of that in the first track though, so it didn't turn out well.
No, and it felt like Ice-T was in the studio and he just started talking, and they're like, yeah, let's put that on the album. Yeah, this was a all around just a bad idea. And you know your album is bad when the one person who gives lighter praise, according to Wikipedia, is Rob Zombie. So there you go, gentlemen. And this was a completely. This is just a contract album. They fuck over their vocalists. Well, I can't really say they. Tony Iommi fucks over his vocalist. And now he's threatening us with a reissue of this album, which makes me feel very attacked.
So back to the fan of this, I was looking up YouTube comments on it, and it's like the same people that like go through like the different songs. Like it's the exact same people. And I have to tell you, one of the comments is, "This album is cool. I listen to it all the time. I will buy the remaster version when Tony Iommi is ready to re-release it. I always liked Tony Martin singing." And like that particular thing is on like 5 different songs.
Oh my god. Yeah, honestly, once I was getting it deep into this album, it made me feel like this was like a demo record made by a Van Halen, Sammy Hagar era tribute band.
Okay. I'm glad you said that because I compared it to a demo of Cheap Trick.
No, man, Cheap Trick had talent.
Yeah, I understand Cheap Trick had talent, but I mean, this is...
They understood song structure. They understood melody. They understood not putting Ice-T's random babblings on a track.
And they put him on for like 2, like not even a full verse. They put him on for like... That was the most confusing thing to me. If I hadn't known it was Ice-T, I wouldn't have known it was Ice-T. Like, you have Ice-T. He must have just done it for like a $500 paycheck. Like, just came in. If this was done in, like, as you said, 10 days, they had him come in for like 15 minutes, do 1 verse, and leave.
Well, according to Tony Martin, they were unsure, like, how much of his stuff was going to be used, because when there was a point during the making of this album that it was teetering on the fact it could be an Ice-T with Black Sabbath album.
Oh dear God!
Yeah, according to article I found on Loudwire, that's kind of like where he was at. He was really unsure even how much of his stuff was going to be used, which is another. I guess the label is leaning into with the hip hop. You know, body count was huge. I mean, Charlton Heston was throwing down their fire lyrics at NRA meetings.
Oh, God damn it. So you're telling me that in some universe there exists a Black Sabbath Ice-T album?
And if that universe exists, there's somehow a darker universe than the one we're currently living.
I thought we had a really bad one here.
Yeah, there's another one with an Ice-T Black Sabbath power mashup.
I mean, we already have a universe where we have Tony Martin. Basically, he's like a Hydrox David Coverdale, already doing some rapping in these first 2 tracks. I mean, I don't know how much darker we can get.
Yeah, so let's start talking about the album, because it's... Paul and I were talking, like, when I first brought it up, that we're doing this, and he listened to it, and he's like, I listened to it like 6 times, I don't remember a thing. And I thought like he was exaggerating. No, I've listened to this like 10 times, and I barely can tell the difference between the songs until it gets to like the power ballad, which I think might be I Won't Cry For You. I don't know, I had to listen on YouTube because streaming services, for some reason, don't carry this album.
Yeah, I will say I've listened to it, I mean, beyond 12 times. I mean, I know for sure it was at least 12. If I had to guess, I'd be something along the lines like 14, 16 times. It's so forgettable. Like, I think that's like the biggest thing about it is I still couldn't tell you, like verses just leave my head. Like the melodies just leave my head. It's really, truly a forgettable album, at least in my mind.
Well, it's worse than forgettable. It's really bad and forgettable. And when you're sitting through it, it's not a pleasant experience. Brown he called me while he was driving listening to this album.
Yeah, I listened to it twice, so I feel like I just have more self-respect than you guys do for going through this so many times.
We listened to Saint Anger 10 times for our review of that. We're masochists.
Yeah.
I should mention that, the sidetrack there, I saw Metallica in 2003, I think it was, or whenever Saint Anger came out, a couple months afterwards. They played at the Metrodome, and it's an indictment on that album when I think they only played one track off of it when it was 2 months old.
Oh, no shit. Really? I was going to ask you if they just had the fucking tin drum going.
No, acoustics aside from the Metrodome, because they were horse shit, it didn't sound bad live. I think they played Frantic.
Yeah, that's the only song from that album I think they continue to play.
Jesus Christ.
But you guys are right about this album being just kind of forgettable, and the only things that really stuck with me are wait, I've heard these guitar riffs before, because Tony Iommi, one of the best riff guys that's ever been around in rock and roll, put him with Angus Young from AC/DC. But you listen to all these songs, it's this sounds awfully similar to what you've done before, which just kind of adds to the aura of laziness to this whole thing.
Yeah, so go ahead.
I was gonna say, the first track, "The Illusion of Power," it's basically the tritone that they have for the song Black Sabbath. I think it was "Can't Get Close Enough." Sounds like the opening to Spiral Architect. Hell, at one point for "I Won't Cry for You," just sounds like they lifted Ozzy from using the opening riff for "If I Close My Eyes Forever."
Yeah, I'm glad you also brought that up, because that was one of the things I was thinking. I'm I've listened to Black Sabbath. I'm not a deep Black Sabbath guy, but I felt the same thing. I'm these feel like this is recycled stuff that they've gone through. I know I've heard this before, but it's way less interesting, and the mixing and the talk singing on it is bullshit.
Yeah, it's just a weird flow from a band who has put out so many classics and knows better. There's a few times where the riffs are okay in this, and it sounds sonically like you would expect a DOL era album to listen to. It doesn't sound like any sort of Ozzy stuff that they ever put out in the 70s, but there's definitely hints of some of the Dio stuff. But it's just everything just feels like it's been done before. It was just kind of a lazier version of it.
Yeah.
I'll also add to the laziness of it too, where I think 5 of the songs fade out. Maybe that's a little nitpicky, but when you have 5 songs on an album and you just fade out, it's just okay, they just didn't know how to finish this song. So,
Brown, that's half the album. It's only 10 tracks long.
Exactly.
Holy shit! I didn't even think of that. Yeah, they just want to create that illusion that they're still jamming out once the songs end. The fade out's one of the laziest, and again, the riffs are just recycled from better albums, and it's so bad it doesn't even remind you could be listening to a better Black Sabbath album, because it doesn't even really sound like a Black Sabbath album. It sounds like very much of the 80s, and this was already the mid 90s, which is another shocking thing for me.
Yeah, this album completely neglects the fact that grunge happened years ago, because it sounds like just so much stuff ripped off from the 80s. It's didn't grunge kill this brand of music, guys?
Yes, it did. And this is one of the things that I think bothered me was it's a 1995. The production again is terrible, and it sounds. That's why I was saying it sounds like a generic or a demo of a Cheap Trick, or one of those 80s bands that no one ever heard of. Granted, I know I'm saying Cheap Trick, I'm throwing them under the bus, but it doesn't sound like number one from the 90s. Doesn't sound like Black Sabbath. It's the production, the mixing. Who okayed that mixing?
Yeah, that's when I go back to. It sounds like a demo album. They sound like what they recorded sounds like something they would do before going into the studio, so they know what they want, how they want the album to sound. And it's just yep, that's the album. This is not Bruce Springsteen's Nebraska. They can't pull that off with this.
Yeah, I think to me that's the biggest flaw to it, is really the mixing and the production of it. I mean, I know that Tony Iommi is blowing smoke up everyone's ass when he says he's going to re-release it. There's no way. There's no way you can fix this. There is absolutely no way you can fix this.
I don't even know a Sabbath completist who would even want a remix of this or a remaster or whatever. Like, and like even in that what he's talking about, he was like maybe he'll get like Tony Martin back to re-record some new stuff. Like, you know, they lucked out when they did the Heaven and Hell stuff back in like 2008, 2009 with Dio, because like, you know, Dio is a big enough name where they could do that and capitalize on it. Not as much money, obviously, than with an Ozzy name, but at least with Dio, he has a baked-in audience. What's the Tony Martin audience for a reissue of an album that's widely considered one of the worst albums of all time? Like when I made my wheel of shit, I was going through all these like various lists of terrible albums, and this was one of the recurring nightmares that were popping in just about every list I looked at. Like, what is the audience? Not only when this was released, but like for a reissue, who's going to buy this? Who's going to listen to it?
Yeah, and I would say that for any of the Tony Martin stuff. Like, you know, obviously Dio and Ozzy are the guys, and like I know one of the albums had like the singer from Deep Purple in it, and you know, Tony had the few albums there with them, and except for Headless Cross, that's the only song that's ever come up with like, oh, this is actually a banger. There's been no call I've ever heard for anything else that the guy is recording. You know, hate to shit on him. He's a perfectly cromulent singer, but you know, this is where we're at. It was the low point of Sabbath.
Okay, guys. Yeah. No, but RHM 5150 on YouTube is ready to buy you buy the remaster.
Oh, the YouTube fans are coming after us.
Oh God. I like how you said cromulent. I think it being an absolute cromulent album is absolutely correct way of stating it, Joe.
Well, it wouldn't be a Joe Down Rate That Album crossover unless there was a Simpsons reference.
Oh yeah, it didn't. Yeah, there's so much. I wish I could even like elaborate more on the songs, but they all blend together. The only reason why the first track stays in my mind is the random Ice-T out of nowhere. That doesn't, again, like you guys mentioned, it doesn't even sound like Ice-T. It sounds like just some guy talking.
No, I agree. I had the same reaction when I listened to that. Before that, it was just, oh, this just sounds like a shitty Suicidal Tendency song.
Oh God, yeah, and they have a lot of shitty songs. This is a perfect Suicidal Tendencies album.
Yeah, and I don't understand. Like again, you go from Ozzy, who has an amazing voice. You go to Ronnie James Dio, who has an amazing voice, and you got this Tony Martin, who, I mean, on this album, I don't know. I mean, granted, it's 1995. I can't imagine he's still singing. I mean, he sounds winded. He sounds winded through the entire album.
Well, maybe he's on that Axl Rose diet, you know, or like when Axl was saying "Welcome to the Jungle" for the first time at the MTV Music Awards, and he comes rolling out. And he's just like, you know, 50 pounds overweight. And like by the time he gets to the mic, he's just winded singing a song that was popular 30 years before.
Oh, is that like the Disaster in Rio?
Oh, God. I don't know.
Him in the raincoat.
Yeah, again, like I'm sure he's a better vocalist, but these sound like he did the one first take, and Tony's like, "Yep, that's good. You nailed it." Like, what? I'll give it another shot. No, we got it.
Well, then it was weird too because he's the main lyricist on this as well, and typically for Sabbath, Geezer Butler was the guy who's doing the bulk of the lyrics, where Tony Iommi was more of the composer of the songs. And I mean, it just sounds like Tony Martin was just kind of going through like a relationship where he's just being like emotionally neglected. I mean, you look at the lyrics for all these songs, most of them are just like, you know, you don't see me, you know, basically pay attention to me. It was just really like cryy middle school emo lyrics which is not a Black Sabbath thing when it's like, songs about like war pigs and doing piles of drugs, whether that's marijuana or cocaine.
Yeah, it sounds like a breakup album is what it sounds like. I mean, I'm glad you brought lyrics because I pulled up lyrics for this thing. Even the illusion of power, I can get the emotional thing in my head, straight in my head. Everything I love dies too soon or is already dead. Don't stand too close. I spit and breathe fire. Anything I got now, you cannot desire. The fuck? Like, come on, man.
Yeah, I had it written down for Shaking Off the Chains where it's, what do you know? A face appears at the window, tapping on the window of your soul. Like, fucking get over your middle school English class, you fucking idiot.
Well, and then you got Rusty Angel, right? Like, what? Okay, first of all, what the fuck's a Rusty Angel? Who came up with that? And
whoever had listened to Livewire by Motley Crue, because that's exactly what it sounds like to start.
The light is always shining, but you swear that it's gone black. The tide is always turning, but you're never looking back. Oh, dude, come on. That is 8th grade poetry right there. You emo little bastard.
Yeah, this song is just like I was saying before. Like, it sounds like a Motley Crue song, 5 years after grunge came out. Like, you're going the complete opposite direction here, guys.
Yeah, I feel like that they missed out on the 80s, and so they were trying to make up for it here, maybe. But oh boy.
Well, and it's sad to see because it was like 3-4 years before this they came out with Dehumanizer, which was a Dio album, granted, but that was a really good album. Like, they're capable of doing this, and just this is so fucking phoned in. It's aggravating.
Yeah, and I should also say it. Like there's on this album, Tony Iommi was the only Sabbath. There was like I forget what the album was in the 80s, but Geezer was on an Ozzy album. So tell you just how much people like Tony Iommi with this shit.
Well, then, speaking of Geezer, one of the things, of all the forgettable things in this album, the one that always stood out to me was just the lack of rhythm section really going on with anything. There's no notable bass lines or anything that go on. Usually you're good for that for Geezer. Just seems like the drumming is just drum, 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 cymbal, drum, 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 cymbal. It's the same fucking beat for like the first 3 songs and just no character or anything. The only thing that seems like any creativity is being flown is the occasional Iommi riff. And even that's phoned in.
I was going to say, even that's phoned in. I'm glad you brought up, because one of the things, I can't remember what track it was, but at one point the drums go double time, and I was actually excited. I was like, oh, the drums did something.
Yeah, the only drum part I can remember was the opening to Sick and Tired, which is, more plagiarism. It sounds like the beginning of Painkiller by Judas Priest.
Oh. Again, bringing up better albums.
Yeah.
Yeah, this album is a stark reminder that you can be doing a lot more with 45 minutes of your life.
Oh, yeah. And considering I listened to this like numerous times. Oh, Jesus.
Yeah.
Well, considering that we've been doing the Joe Down for like 6 years, we already know you waste your time fretting.
That is true. That is true. Oh, God. What else? Is there anything else we can add to this horseshit album?
I mean, I feel like we're kicking a man when he's down, but yeah.
I mean, I think the biggest positive of it is its finite running time.
Yeah. I mean, I enjoyed when it was over.
Exactly.
When it ended, I was like, I'm happy now.
I felt like they tried to do something with it, and like, because the opening of the first song and the opening of the last song is the exact same guitar. I don't know if you guys caught that. And I felt like they're like, oh, well, they're going to try and make this cool bookend thing. And it doesn't go anywhere, and it doesn't fucking work.
Out like everything else in this fucking album.
Like I will say I really believe that in a week from now I listen to this thing. Like I said, at least 12 times. I lost count after 12. I'm not going to remember this in a week. I'm really not.
For me, I would have loved to have been like if you were working at the record store. I know you brought this up with the Saint Anger review of, people who just listened to the album for like 20 minutes and then booked it over to CD Warehouse to return it. I would have loved to have seen that happen with this album, but then I remember that no one bought it, so I don't think that would have been a problem.
This album, it seems to me, so back in like the mid to late 90s, if you went to like a place like Media Play or Circuit City, which are all now defunct, by the way, but they'd have these cutout bins, and there would be like these kind of Black Sabbath albums in there, and I would always look at it, and I'd just be like, when you're a dumb kid, you're not entirely sure if it's like an Ozzy or because the internet wasn't really much back then. But I just always knew in my bones, like, I'd better not buy this for $4.99, and I'm glad I didn't.
And speaking of no one buying it, if I'm wrong, but I believe the thing only sold 12,000 albums when it debuted.
But I'm
That
actually
seems high.
shocked there's 12,000 people who own this.
No one I knew owned it.
Oh, that's depressing. There's people out this with a physical copy of it. Poof. Holy shit.
Yeesh. Yeah, it was this was Joe, I think of all the things that we've done, this is probably the most egregious.
Yeah, it's gross. You shouldn't have picked it, Paul.
Fuck you. Look, I'll own Tommy the motion picture soundtrack, but I ain't owning this.
Oh, this is all you, buddy. You had to pick that number, didn't you?
Paul, what's the level of anger you had from this album from 0 to Fleming's reaction to Lindsey Buckingham?
Oh God, I would put this. I mean, I would put this at an 8. The thing with it was, especially the first time I listened to it, I was really, really fucking angry, and then like 15 minutes later, it was out of my head. I couldn't remember anything about it, Joe. And then so I listened to it again, and then I got angry. And then it was like, again, a half hour later, I didn't remember anything. So as I started listening and going on, I'm like, well, I'm not going to remember any of this, which sucks because I really want to bring up stuff about it on the podcast, but I can't remember anything about this goddamn album.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Even like when they slow it down with an acoustic number, and usually those are the things that like pop out to me at least. Not at this time. That one just blended right into the rest of the bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, compared to Saint Anger, I think Saint Anger had me angrier on the Lindsey Buckingham scale, just because that was so obnoxious. Where this is okay. You know, I was talking about movies. The worst thing a bad movie can be is boring, right? That's like, I mean, you can have a good bad movie, but a boring bad movie is really the worst thing. And like, that's what this is. This is just a really fucking boring album.
I'd agree with that 100%.
Yeah, it's Paul, guilty as hell. I won't cry for you because I'm sick and tired of talking about this album.
One last thing I will say, I think it's
whoa, get a grip, Paul.
Get a grip. Yeah, see, that's one thing I remember was get a grip. Is if this had came out like in 1983, 84. Honestly, I think it would have been serviceable. It would have came out and been like, one of those things. But coming out in 1995 and it coming from, again, Black Sabbath is something that I think is the bigger problem. If this had been like a Cinderella album or like a Warren album, you'd be like, yeah, it's expected. We expect it from them. But as Joe, as you said, both of you have said, Black Sabbath is one of those bands that you expect more from. And in 1995, I mean, Ozzy had put out some really great stuff, solo stuff. And fuck this album. Fuck it.
Yeah. Well, that's also the elephant in the room is his success just fucking kind of, I don't know. I think it shattered these guys' confidence, or at least Iommi's. Like, they fire the guy expecting he's going to drink and drug himself to death, which he almost does, and then comes out like 81 with Blizzard of Oz and like fucking tops just about everything they've done to that point. Like, yeah, I mean, they're just, he musically cucked his ex-bandmates.
I'm just glad that this album exists just so I can appreciate the Dio era even more so, and I'm just glad that, you know, Black Sabbath decided to just run an album and a tour with him under the banner of Heaven and Hell instead of Black Sabbath, so at least that era of that band could at least get their flowers. Because then you just listen to shit like this and it's just like, wow, well, it's glad at least they had two parts of their careers where they were badass and the rest of it was just dog shit that we don't need to listen to with bad cover art and bad everything.
Yeah, this is the album that I never needed to listen to.
But you did. You needed to hear it. Just once.
You fuck stick.
So, gentlemen, great Black Sabbath album or the greatest Black Sabbath album?
I'd rather listen to the one that has the weird baby image on it. I think that was Born Again. Either way, fuck this
That was
album.
a Tony Martin one, wasn't it?
I think that might have been the one with the Deep Purple singer.
Oh, Jesus.
Jesus Christ.
Like
Yes,
Ricky
that was the one with Ian
Blackmore and
Gillan in
Tony
it.
Iommi are just throwing around singers at some point. Just interchange them.
Yeah, that was the album with Ian Gillan on it.
Oh,
Ugh. It was all bad. So far on our thing, this is up there with some of the worst stuff we've listened to. And I know people are going to sit back and say it's really not as bad as XYZ. No, it is. It is, because it's egregious on every level. It's egregious on a production level. It's egregious on a vocal level. It's boring and brought up as plagiarism. It sounds like everything else that's out there. Like, when you really put it all together, this creates every single fucking cardinal sin. You know, we can at least sit back and laugh at what happened, like Jack Nicholson on fucking Tommy. Ha 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 ha. I can't laugh at this.
yeah. And the people who defend it, I feel like they purposely overlooked the fact that they did it in 10 days just to get out of a contract, to move on to better things with Ozzy Osbourne without telling their singer that shit. Like, there's so many fuck yous on this album and so many different levels of it.
Yeah, well, and again, you get things where people say the 90s was a really strange decade in which so many great metal albums were pushed aside and fairly criticized for no particular reason. This is one of them, by Heathen Dance on YouTube.
Oh, Heathen Dance.
You'll always have, the defenders. You always have the defenders, but the truth is, you're right. There's no defending this album.
Well, we'll have to wait until Iommi does the reissue of it with bonus tracks. You guys excited for the bonus tracks? Maybe we'll have to go back to this when the bonus tracks are.
Is it going to be Ice-T tracks?
Oh, God. I don't even think they got far enough to make the Ice-T collab actually a thing.
That's the thing too. I mean, can they do I'm wondering if that's why Tony just hasn't done it, because they only got 10 days worth of recording. I mean, there's not much to work with.
Well, in the interview, Iommi says they record new tracks with them. And that's kind of like what they did with Dio with the Heaven and Hell reissues. They recorded some new songs with him under the title, though, Heaven and Hell. They didn't call it Black Sabbath. They could call this new version Forbidden.
Oh, God.
Or maybe Rusty Angels.
Fuck you. Fuck you.
At least Kiss of Death was a very apropos final song title, just so we could end this fucking thing.
Oh, God. The one that clocks in at 6 minutes.
God damn it.
We're just gonna prolong your misery. This president didn't go with an Inagata Vita like.
Well, don't give him ideas for the re-release, man.
Yeah. We'll get the 9-minute version of fucking Forbidden of Illusion of Power.
Oh God.
Give it a Thriller breakdown like Pink Floyd.
Oh Christ.
Oh God. So, gentlemen, do we recommend this album?
Oh,
no. If you hate life and you're done. You're just done. You're just done with life. Sure, listen to this album because you're gonna feel better about yourself because you didn't put this out.
Yeah.
Only listen to this album if you just want to hear the death rattle of one of the greatest metal bands of all time.
Only to be revived by their former frontman who infinitely more successful than they ever got to be.
Well, yeah. I mean, Tony Martin's the Gary Sharon of the Black Sabbath, anthology.
Oh God. Yeah. Yeah. At least we didn't have to sit through a video of them like in like an ice castle like we did with Eddie and Gary Sharon.
Oh God. What now it makes me wonder if they put out a fucking. No, they didn't. I know they didn't because I looked for it. They didn't put out any fucking music videos for this one. So that's one. I guess that's a good thing. That's a good thing we got.
Yeah, that's what. I mean, when your album is so bad that you can only stream it on a YouTube fan video that's put up. Oh, IRS is missing out on them clicks. Those streams.
Well, now that I brought it up, now I'm just waiting for you guys to review that Gary Sharon Van Halen album.
Oh, it's on the wheel of shit, Brown.
It's gonna happen. We're gonna get there.
We're getting there. We're gonna get there. No, don't you worry.
So
there's a lot of albums out there. There's an Edgar Winter Scientology album we'll get to at some point.
Oh, sweet Jesus!
Yeah, and a Blue Oyster
truly a monster.
Blue Oyster Cult did a Scientology album too.
Oh, goody!
Yeah, Paul, I've been researching. Now you and Brown can start your therapy group.
I used to think you were a monster for picking albums, but now I see how you do it on the musical front. You're just a monster.
And then you blame me. You gaslit me into being like, "Yep, you picked it."
Yeah, you did though. I didn't pick it. You picked it.
You monster.
You're trying to put the blame on me, Paul. You're the one who picked the number, not
God
me.
Damn it, Joe. Okay, Joe, would you recommend it?
No, fuck no. This was it's egregious in how boring it is. It's egregious in how it's not even mixed. It's not even produced. It sounds like a demo. Poor Tony Martin, his vocals are all over the map because I think he only got one take.
That was something that I, when I was listening to it, I was like, God, he's all over the place. Like he sounds winded. He sounds whatever. And knowing now that, yeah, you're right. He probably got one take. I feel bad. Like I feel bad for the guy. Like I legitimately feel bad for him.
Yeah, I kind of do too. I'll look into it. He might be like a weird anti-vaxxer where I'll feel like, yeah, he kind of deserved this one. But until that, I find that evidence, yeah, I'll feel a little sympathy for him, especially with the whole they're reforming with Ozzy and not telling him about it. That's a real dick move.
I think if you're going on the sons of bitch complex scale for this band, Tony Iommi's probably number one just for allowing Black Sabbath to play apartheid era South Africa. Compared to that, I think Tony Martin's okay.
Yeah, he's the Tony Banks of the group.
Oh, Tony Banks is awesome, though. What are you talking about?
No, he's not. He's a fucking
He's the biggest asshole in Genesis. It's great. He hates everything. Thinks he's more talented than Peter Gabriel. I mean, that's some hubris right there.
He thinks he's more talented than fucking Phil Collins because remember they put out an album without him.
Yeah, that's on a list I got. Not the Wheel of Shit, but that's on a list.
Oh, yeah, that's definitely yep. That's on a. We will. I was going to put that one out there too, so I'm glad we're on the same page there.
Yeah. We're just miserable pricks, Paul. We're just making each other listen to shit albums week after week.
Hey, you know what, man?
Joe Brown do it too, which brings me infinite joy.
Such a son of a bitch.
Since I got you both here, what can we expect in the next upcoming Joe Downs?
We got Judge Dredd coming out, which is the
'94 one, not the remake that I've heard good things about. We're going Sly, baby.
Yeah, I watched the first half hour of it today. It's really it's a Republican wet dream movie. I don't remember it being that pro like.
Is it more pro Republican than Con Air was?
Yeah.
Wow.
Like they're like bootlicker police. Yeah, it's fucking weird, man. Like
it's a very Republican movie.
Yeah.
I just like that when I told him that was the movie we were going with, Fleming just like, wait, haven't we done that before? No, you were thinking Demolition Man. It's like, wait, this is part of the catalog of the Sly Stallone, Rob Schneider vehicles.
Yeah, it was a juggernaut in the mid-90s. The Slyanator, Slyrama.
Before Jackie Chan and Chris Tucker, there were Sly Stallone and Rob Schneider.
God damn it.
Or Jackie Chan and Owen Wilson.
Yeah. I am the law.
Oh.
Yeah, that is something. Yeah. So
and then what do we have after that one, Fleming?
What did I pick? Oh, Steel. The Shaquille O'Neal Superman movie.
Okay, you are a monster.
Frankly, it's stunning that we've taken 6 years to get to a Shaq movie.
Oh my God. Jesus Christ. Yeah, that's a fucking doozy.
I liked the Steel comic book character. I thought he was engaging. Especially that bullshit Death of Superman shit where all of a sudden there's 7 Supermen. The only one I liked was the guy who has no chance in hell of being Superman.
He was great in that. I will say that. That was a great character in the comics.
Yeah. Yeah. So I really hope Shaquille O'Neal does that justice.
I feel like this is a segue to Paul picking a Shaquille O'Neal album.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Paul, what do we got coming up next?
All right. Well, you got your wheel of shit, and I have my own thing. We've already dipped into it a little bit, but I have a penchant for actors and celebrities that put out music albums that have no business putting out music albums. It's just a thing. If an actor or a celebrity that's not a musician puts out an album, I have to have it. And I'm going to put you through William Shatner's 2011 album, Seeking Major Tom.
Oh, that makes me so happy to hear.
That's not even.
God, I was closer on the Shaq thing than I thought it would be.
You're much closer to Shaq.
You didn't even pick the Ben Folds produced one.
No, the Ben Folds produced one was actually a better of the two, so you're welcome.
Oh, you'll pay. Don't think you won't pay.
I already paid, buddy. Now it's your turn.
Oh, all right.
Yep, William Shatner, Seeking Major Tom, with all covers, including his rendition of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Well, he's got he can hit all those octaves, man. He's got a voice of an angel.
And Space Cowboy with Brad Paisley.
Oh
my God! I'm glad this is a one-off for me.
Oh, you don't want in on this, Brown?
I will politely decline.
But it's got such classics like Space Truckin'.
Space, isn't that a Deep Purple song?
It's all covers, buddy. It's all covers.
Oh God. Do they do anything from Forbidden?
We could only be so lucky. Yeah. But there is Iron Man with Zakk Wylde.
Wow.
I'm at a loss.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know. I don't think I can add anything to that.
Oh, dude. Well, you just wait till you hear the Bootsy track.
Oh God, I'm so angry.
You know, I didn't drink alcohol during this. Now I feel like I need to.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a stiff drink after this one. This
was rough.
son
This
of a
was rough.
bitch.
You can go far. I will go one step farther, sir.
Oh, I can go further, Paul.
God damn you.
You know I can.
I know you
Mass
can. That's
Brown,
what terrifies me.
I can rain down horror.
Paul, there's no limits to his tyranny.
God, I know. I feel bad. I've looked at some of the Joe Downs. I go, really?
Are we out of Twilight movies, or is there still like one more left?
Oh, there's one left in my back pocket, Brown.
Oh, God, you know, guys, even I haven't suffered through those.
There's like Joe Down canon to that at this point.
That's so brutal. That's so brutal, you guys.
Glittery vampires and mouth-breathing Kristen Stewart.
I think you said it enough times on this podcast, Paul. The things we do for our art.
The things we do for our art. Yes, we've said that numerous times. The things we put ourselves through.
All right. Well, Paul, you want to take us out?
Fuck you.